I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley made remarks at the Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology in Boston on Monday. The Massachusetts Democrat announced a grant of $300,000 through federal funding for, quote, a new green job certificate and associate program, according to the lawmaker's social media page. Pressley shared that funding for the program, quote, proves that in building a brighter, more equitable future, we do not have to choose between environmental justice and racial justice. Listen in for more from the event.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Just before I get into some brief remarks, I want to say what an incredibly full circle and gratifying moment it is to return to BFIT. Shortly after my election to Congress, the first time as a member of Congress, I came to BFIT, and it was the very first honorary degree that I accepted. So this is an institution very near and dear to my heart, and it is wonderful to be here today as we celebrate the community project funds allocated directly to the Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology. This is an exciting day for the future of the college, and more importantly, for the students who chose to pursue higher education as a part of BFIT's school community. First, I want to thank Dr. Francis, President Francis, for hosting us this morning, for everything she does day in and day out for our students and for the entire city of Boston. I've been humbled to be able to travel to Massachusetts 7th Congressional District to highlight the impact of our collective advocacy in securing direct community project funding where it is needed most. And today, we're able to highlight the impact of the $300,000 in direct targeted spending to support the creation of BFIT's Clean Energy Building Automation Systems program. There's absolutely no doubt that the funding for this program will serve a critical need within our community to help more BFIT students, especially those from low-income and marginalized communities, garner the skills required to find jobs in this quickly growing sector. And what I love about this program is it proves that in building a brighter, more equitable future, we do not have to choose between environmental justice and racial justice because the two are inextricably linked. True economic justice is the ability for everyone to not only participate in the economy, but to have the tools to drive the innovation and wealth creation, especially in growing sectors like clean energy. A lot of collective work went into this moment. Our team was dedicated to advocating for this project, and I'm so proud to deliver these funds and see them directly impact students right here at the Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology. At every level of government, we have a responsibility to fight for education equity and justice, and programs like these are a great example of how we increase true access to higher education that can create real opportunities for our students. We'd also like to thank our delegation colleagues, Senators Warren and Markey, for their partnership and help to move these funds through the Senate. Today is only the beginning. I look forward to our continued partnership as we work towards ensuring our higher education system is not only affordable and accessible to all, but the learning opportunities give students a chance to keep up with the continuously evolving job market. For too long, the dream of higher education has remained out of reach for many. Many who pursue a higher education will have hopes of finding a job, and their goals don't always translate. So after generations of divestment and underinvestment in our higher education, our HBCUs, and minority-serving institutions like BFIT, it's time we begin making robust federal investments in programs like the one here at BFIT. It's programs like BFIT's Clean Energy Building Automation Systems program, which will help equip our students with the skills necessary to thrive in our ever-evolving economy and help address climate change. So I'm incredibly proud to be here today to deliver this $300,000 federal investment for BFIT's Clean Energy Building Automation Systems Program, and I am thankful to everyone here today for being partners in this work to create more opportunities for BFIT students. And now we'll hear from Dr. Francis, President Aisha Francis.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Pressley. We are so honored to be part of this historic moment and to be part of the incredible effort that you have put forward with your staff to make sure that federal dollars are invested in District 7. And we know that this will have a ripple effect. So I want to also thank my staff, our team, students, Jemai, Richie, and John, who are behind me, as well as their department lead, John Sarasconi, who is the program director for our HVAC program. This kind of moment has been a year in the making, I believe, in terms of the process that it takes. This is what it looks like to have really thoughtful leadership at the congressional level and to have advocacy at the congressional level. It really thinks about what we're doing today and how that will have ripple effects for tomorrow. This $300,000 is going to position us to train infinitely more people in building automation systems. And that's important because we need to support our clean energy economy. We have an obligation to our planet and to the people who live in this area to make sure that they have access to the training that is required in order to be today's technicians and to fuel tomorrow's jobs, to keep our area competitive. We know that federal investments in higher education are fundamental, but this is one that's also an investment in workforce. It's an investment in labor, and there's so many ways in which we know that this will have an impact for generations to come. By expanding our clean energy programming, which this investment will do, it will allow us to build a new program in building automation systems. We understand that we are giving people the opportunity to pursue more careers in clean tech. This is a high demand area with many job openings, and there are not enough people currently trained to fill these openings. So we are going to stand in that gap. In Massachusetts, residential and commercial buildings using oil and gas produce almost 30% of the Commonwealth's greenhouse gas emissions. And this particular program will help green those buildings. These are existing commercial buildings as well as those that are being built today. Electricity is responsible for an additional 17% of emissions, and this is according to the Massachusetts Annual Greenhouse Gas Emission Inventory. We know that things like Building Better Buildings Act at the state level has placed before us a goal to achieve 80% emissions reduction by 2040. We cannot do that without technicians who understand how to operate cleaner buildings. So this has a very direct impact on our carbon reduction goals as a state and our ability to live and work in cleaner, healthier buildings. As a minority-serving institution where 74% of our students identify as people of color, as an organization that welcomes students of all backgrounds, non-traditional backgrounds, untapped, and what that means, what that looks like is the majority of our students are first generation. Many are immigrants or children of immigrants. We welcome everyone to get training in fields that will pay them well, that will increase their quality of life, and that will allow them to take care of themselves and their loved ones. So we thank you again for this investment, Congressman Pressley. We are so happy to be part of this rollout district-wide. We want people to know that Benjamin Franklin Cummings Institute of Technology is grateful for the federal investment, and that we look forward to stewarding this investment well with more people trained in building automation systems to come. Thank you all so much.
All right, well now you guys are all in for a real treat, and that we're going to be hear from BFIT Professor John Terrasconi, and thank you, President Francis, for your remarks.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. This is such a great day for Benjamin Franklin. With these funds, we're really going to be able to create a great learning environment for our students and give them the skills that they're going to need to enter this workforce. Building automation is a sometimes overseen job where people don't really know too much about it, but it actually has a lot to do with your everyday. If you work in a commercial building or an office, that building is controlled by building automation. And with the demand for everyone to be green and be more environmentally friendly, someone knowing how to control these systems is a great opportunity and a great job to have. This building automation controls everything from building temperatures to lighting, security, fire safety, and now with these funds, we'll be able to create a state-of-the-art classroom where we can show students some real hands-on and what it looks like to work in the field. And I can't say thank you enough to Congresswoman Pressley and for everyone who worked so hard on this. It started out as an idea of mine maybe 3-4 years ago, and it's just a dream come true to see it come to fruition and be able to change lives in the Boston area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Terrasconi, and to your point there, you really underscore a belief that I've always had that the best collaborations and partnerships are those that are driven and informed by those closest to the work and then endorsed by government. This is a perfect example of that. And again, to President Francis, who has made so many things that have been thoughts and ideas for a long time, but brought them to fruition during your tenure here. We are very grateful for your efforts and your commitment to BFIT in the community. It is just clear with Professor Terrasconi, yourself, and everyone we've met here at BFIT today, that people are bringing their full heart to this work and to these students, and we're grateful. And speaking of students, next we're going to hear from John Wynn. Is that the correct pronunciation? Yes. Okay. So next we're going to hear from John Wynn, one of the BFIT extraordinary scholars.
Thank you everyone for taking time out, and allowing me to speak on it, because I do think this will be a big help, because as an HVAC tech, an important thing for us is to learn how to efficiently operate these systems and get them to deliver these services in a timely manner. So with building automations, that would help us in diagnosing things faster, fixing things faster, and therefore being able to deliver these things to customers or just people in a timely manner. So thereby reducing waste, or if a system is say leaking, less refrigerant leaking out and harming the environment. So that would definitely have an effect on the environment and helping us reduce it.
Thank you, John. It certainly gives me much more confidence about the future, knowing that we're making such a critical investment like this that supports both our sustainability goals and the public health, and ensures that more and more people are a part of this industry, and that we truly are building an inclusive economy. All right, well now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, Dr. Francis, President Francis, should we present this check to you?
I can raise your hand real quick. Perfect.
Right, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I noticed,
Madam Chair. Yes.
I noticed there's also $1 million to the city of Boston for tuition-free community college. Is there a concerted effort in part of this to try to help that kind of education for communities that have been underserved over the years?
I think the point here is, with the total $8 million that were delivered through the community project funding, and the one specifically focused on higher education, is that I see it as a public good, and we should invest in it accordingly. And that is a part of our broader advocacy legislatively and when it comes to our appropriations process, so that we're addressing the deeper problem here. Many people know of my work championing the need for us to cancel student debt by executive action. I've been championing the need for $50,000. We know that will close the racial wealth gap by 30% and alleviate the burden, writ large for those from every walk of life who are burdened by this nearly $2 trillion crisis. Grandparents, 76 years old, still paying student loans. Parents who took out Parent Plus loans who cannot retire. And a whole generation that can't start a family, grow a family, purchase a home, start a business. But we also have to address, we need broader reforms and investments. The cost of higher education has increased by some 150%. And so we need to federally invest in tuition-free college as a public good, and we should invest in it accordingly. And we also need to make that greater investment in our MSIs, our HBCUs, and we need to expand Pell Grants as well. So, and yes, it is concerted. This project, this process was a very competitive one. This is the first time in a decade that there has been the opportunity even for community project funding. So there were many applications presented from municipalities throughout the 7. And we were so glad that they met the eligibility and the criteria, and then they became one of the prioritized projects that we fought for an entire year. And so it's an exciting day to see all of that come to fruition and to hear all the ways in which those investments will be felt.
Congresswoman, I was listening to what you said in the roundtable, and you said that some people say that college is not for everybody, and this money is supposed to make college available more for everybody. And along the lines of what you said, I mean, this school, I know, is a lot of non-traditional students who are looking for new starts to build new careers. Can you talk a little bit about that kind of focus?
Sure, and really the point that I was making there is that I think that there is sometimes a social stigma placed on those that are not pursuing more traditional four-year college, as if deciding to pursue the trade is some sort of defaulted choice, when again, it is an extraordinary choice, and it is a conscious choice and the first choice for many. And so it's incredible to spend time with people today who have always known this is what they wanted to do, and now we have the opportunity to marry their passion with a new skill set to then, again, have a more inclusive economy, and particularly for many of the trades which have historically not been as representative of the communities that they serve, to see that being addressed here at BFIT. As President Francis was saying, I think it was 75% of the students here are identified students of color, and many of them are immigrants in first generation. We also heard from many who have been justice involved and have faced great employment discrimination. And so it's wonderful that BFIT has created a community that supports those whom many would not give a second chance, and that they're thriving. They're able to provide for their families, and they're making a difference in our city and our Commonwealth.
We have one other student who wants to share his story real quick.
Oh, of course. Come on, Richie. I'm so sorry.
Hi, everybody. I'm Richard. This is saying in life, in every small or whatever something. Every time I tell somebody I'm in school at the Benjamin, they say, "Oh, what are you teaching?" I said, "No, I'm a student." And they kind of laugh and say, "Oh, I'm sorry," but I went through life with addiction of alcohol and drugs for a long time. In 2010, I changed my life around, and everything I've done since to improve my life. I always judge St. Francis by the cover of the outside, all the chaos going on the outside, but when I went inside, I was offered so much help, schooling, how to learn computers, stuff like that, and then this came up also with Benjamin Franklin, and it's like, oh, I don't know anything about it. I worked on refrigeration because I've been a chef my whole life, and I said, why not? Let's give it an opportunity to take a shot. And since I've come to the school, everyone's been nothing but nice to me. They explain things to me. I'm still struggling a little bit, but I always say that Jeremiah helped me. Sebastian helps me a lot. The students are amazing. Somebody says if you want to be trapped on an island, I'd rather be trapped on an island with 4 homeless people than 4 billionaires because they have so much knowledge from the streets, from what they've been through. They help me out every day. I stay sober because I'm able to help people now. I promote this place a lot. I promote St. Francis. I'm a member at the BLC, Boston Living Center. I tell all my friends there, come do this, you can change your life will get better. You just gotta put the work into it. John asked me when he first, can you be here at 8, can you leave at 5? I said, yeah. And everything he's asked me to do, I've done because I want to learn, I want to change my life. I want to keep going forward. This year I've seen on the news twice, there was 2 ladies, one was 78, one was 90, and they both graduated with their masters, one from Cambridge College, one from Harvard. It is never too late to change your life. You gotta put the work into it. I tell people all the time, do not give up, because if you give up, you're gonna go back into the system, and you're gonna miss out on great opportunities in life. So this place is a great place to start. If you need help or anything, just ask and they'll give it to you. Anything you need, they will help you with. And I'm truly grateful for the state of Massachusetts and the city of Boston because they've given me so much since I've been out of incarceration and been sober. Usually when I look at a podium, I say I'm an alcoholic, but today I am an alcoholic, I'm a recovering alcoholic who has changed his life for the better. So I wish you all good luck and keep fighting for your life.
That's exactly what you should have a microphone. Okay. Well, good luck if any of you want to try to come after that. Any questions?
Just one question, actually a comment first, but Richard, you were visibly moved as you were sharing your story. And Congresswoman, when I believe it was Jeremiah and Garth started to share theirs, you gave them the language, you said, you talked about a second chance. Can you just reiterate and reinforce the importance of programs like this and others in making opportunities in the clean tech space and clean energy space available to folks like this who need a second chance and otherwise would not have an opportunity?
Sure, no, absolutely. As I was, sharing earlier, certainly, I have loved ones, my own father included, who, after cycling in and out of the criminal legal system because his addiction had been criminalized, my father ultimately went on to make great contributions to become a college professor, to become a published author. But along the way, he was met with great discrimination. And ultimately that was overcome, thankfully, because he had so many positive things to contribute, so many people to help, community to pour into. And so I'm glad and grateful that BFIT is playing this incredible role for those who have historically faced barriers to employment, whether they've been justice involved or immigrants or never saw themselves as a student. That this is really, I can't reiterate enough, I keep calling it a community because that is what it is. Of course, it's an institution of higher learning, It's an MSI, and it's meeting the need, again, of ensuring that we have a more inclusive economy and that those folks who have historically been disenfranchised, low income, communities of color, immigrants, have an opportunity to be represented in these trades that have not always been as represented, but also to play a role as good citizens in this Commonwealth, in our city, and really globally. This is about sustainability goals. This is about their own competitiveness. This is about being able to bring to bear their own contribution. And one of the young men was saying that what inspired him to want to be a part of this was during the pandemic. It gave him an even greater appreciation for things like HVAC, that this is also about public health, keeping people safe. So we thank BFIT for meeting the confluence of all those critical needs, both for community and also for our economy. And again, ultimately, for the livability of our planet. What could be more important than that? Any other questions from the press?
A couple of questions off topic.
Sure.
The Greater Boston Food Bank released a study saying that, among other things, up to almost 30% of adults in Massachusetts are food insecure. Is there more you'd like to see done? Is there more that can be done from Washington to help address food insecurity?
Well, I'd like to pretend that I'm surprised by those very sobering statistics, but I'm not. And in fact, in many of our institutions of higher learning, our community colleges and otherwise, they've had to set up food banks to meet the growing food insecurity that has been compounded by this pandemic-induced recession. This is a policy failure. It is a moral failure. No one should know hunger. And I partnered early on with, in this Congress, the 117th, with Congressman Jim McGovern. He was a global champion in combating food insecurity and hunger, lobbying the White House for us to have a summit on hunger. And we learned in the last couple of weeks that will come to fruition. Because not only is this a policy failure, a moral failure, really a humanitarian crisis, the good news is it's 100% solvable. And so we will have this White House summit. And then more recently, in that we see the waivers for school lunch expiring and advocating for an extension of those school meals as we head into the summer. We know for so many of our children, the only opportunity for a balanced quality meal is at school. And it's really important that we make sure that those different lunch sites and the like that we're providing, and there's no reason why we should only be feeding our kids half the time. I mean, again, it's a humanitarian crisis. And then finally, one more thing on the federal level, I do continue to fight for a COVID package. You see, we're all masked here today. We're still in a pandemic. And that is still having an incredible impact on our public health, and again, also on the pocketbooks of working families. And so, as I continue to fight for another COVID response package, some of what I'm fighting for to be included in that package is to make sure that we have all the flexibility and all the funds necessary to make sure that no one goes hungry.
Congresswoman, this week there is an oversight hearing on the latest, I don't even know how to phrase this question, it's become so horrific, the mass shooting epidemic in the country. What are you expecting to hear? What do you want to hear?
Speaking of policy failures, when I was a city councilor, I convened the first ever listening-only hearing in the city of Boston. It was where we heard from some 400 surviving family members of homicide victims. And we could not counter, we could not go back and forth, we could only actively listen to their pain and their trauma, their intergenerational trauma, their residual trauma. So I believe with any issue that you start with those that are closest to it. The people closest to the pain should be the closest to the power, driving and informing the policy making. So if we're really serious about doing something to address the public health crisis that is gun violence, which is resulting not only in tragic school shootings or emboldened hate and the targeting of Blacks and Asians and Muslims and the Jewish community, but also we have seen an increase in suicide. We know that wherever there are guns, there's a likelihood of accidental shootings. It's the #1 killer of children who've been able to access a gun in the home. And also domestic violence. And so for all of those reasons, again, this is a public health crisis. And it is a policy failure. When you see something happening over and over again and at the same time, that's a policy failure. So I am encouraged that we're going to, in short order, be taking up some common sense legislation in the House. The Senate is still in their deliberations, but that will be moving on something. And I hope that will include a ban on assault weapons. It also will be increasing the age to purchase firearms to 21, and also universal background checks. As for the oversight hearing, just to bring it full circle, again, as I think about that first listening only hearing that I had, hearing from those voices, again, if you're serious about addressing an issue, that's where you begin, and you listen to those who have been most impacted. So in the oversight committee, which I serve, we'll hear from victims from the Valley and also Buffalo. And I hope that we
We keep
will follow
hearing,
suit to what we learned from them.
we keep hearing this time is different, but we heard that almost 10 years ago now after Sandy Hook. Do you think this time is different? Do you think this time something will happen in Washington?
I'm sure gonna fight like hell to make sure that it does. You know, I was asked the other day, as I was talking about, because of the filibuster and our inability to just get 10 Senate Republicans to support many of the other consequential crisis issues that we've been trying to move on. I think how the question was framed is you talk about everything the Senate Republicans need to do, but what are you willing to compromise on? When it comes to our children, when it comes to our elders and our teachers, nothing. We've been doing that. And that's why we continue to see these tragic shootings and this carnage. So this is a policy failure, it is a moral failure, and like hunger, it is preventable. It is solvable. And I cannot even believe that I have to say that this is about summoning the political will and courage. What kind of courage does it take to keep communities safe? And the fact that someone even, since we're in school, think that the response to that is to arm teachers is unconscionable. It's unconscionable. And we saw in Amy Valley that even with having people, school police, like that did not prevent the shooting from happening. So there'll be change when there's policy change, federal policy change. Assault weapons ban, raising the age to 21 to purchase firearms, and universal background checks. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.